Thank you very much for joining me this evening for the program. Like every Wednesday night, we're here from 8:30. And this evening, it's very special. It's one of those times that I enjoy probably the most when we can interact directly instead of having a guest here with us. You are the people in the hot seat, so to speak. But just to share your views on some of the developments taking place around us, I have listed a few of them, some of the major happenings around St. Lucia that would have an impact on you as residents of this country. One of them, of course, something that continues to happen, children who run away or children who disappear for a while and then are recovered. We heard in the news this week that a 13-year-old went missing, at least for a while. Her father, according to what he reported, put her on a bus and sent her off to meet her mom, but she never got there. That was last Thursday, and as of Monday she had not gotten to her mom. So many implications in that. You know, where do our human services come in? Where do our social workers come in? Where do the police come in? And what sort of systems are in place to protect those young and vulnerable children in our society? The number will be on your screen so that you can call in very shortly to provide your take on some of the things happening around us. Also, another major development, the civil service or civil status registry, rather, the cabinet has agreed or approved a course of action where the situation there will be addressed and expeditiously. We know all the problems that continue to plague that institution. People who travel long distances coming from the south, coming from the east and west to that central location to get their birth records, to get their baptismal records, and if there is any error in those documents, then they have to go through a long process, going to the adjudicator, making rounds in castries just to ensure that they get that very essential document that they need to use for identification for their passports and for other medical reasons. And you know, people arguing today, up to today, that they have traveled because they did not have the receipt, that they were not able to get a birth certificate for which, well, one lady in particular for which she had paid. So, you know, so many issues coming. So it's interesting to see that now Cabinet taking a decision that the Ministry of the Public Service will be looking into that matter to try to find some resolve as far as the civil status registry. Of course, Carnival is right around the corner. The quarterfinals, I think, are wrapped up right now, and you have some people already booking their places for the semifinals, or all the semifinalists for the Calypso competition have been set, and they will be competing very shortly to determine which of those will progress to the finals. Carnival began on a controversial note, and for some reason every year, once there is Carnival, there is bacchanal. And I'm not talking about the bacchanal that you see on the street, but you talk about bacchanal in terms of conflict and controversy between organizers and those who take part in the event. And this year, no surprise, more of the same. You had a controversy over the launch, and people saying, you know, there was no real launch, comparing Carnival to the hosting of the St. Lucia Jazz and Arts Festival, which preceded or always precedes Carnival every year. So a comparison there, you know, why are we spending so much for jazz and not spending it as much for Carnival, which pretty much is something that most or more St. Lucians take part in. If we're using taxpayers' money, why not put the taxpayers' money into an activity on an event that St. Lucians themselves participate in? So these are some of the questions that are coming out of that. Also, something that has happened of late, and hopefully we will have Dr. Len Ishmael on here with us in the next few weeks to discuss her tenure at the Organization of Eastern Caribbean States. She is moving on after 10 years, and she will hopefully sit with us to discuss some of the challenges that she has faced during her tenure at the helm of that organization, what she thought that she accomplished during her time there, what are the challenges that the organization, the sub-regional organization still faces, and how we can surmount those. So these are the things that we would love to discuss with her when she comes here some weeks from now. Interestingly, this week as well, talking about the Fisherman's Feast. Fisher folk, very important to the economy and also just to our whole structure, especially as it relates to agriculture. They play a major role as far as the agricultural sector, and they celebrated the Fisherman's Feast this week. So these are just a few of the things that we want to discuss. As I said, the lines are open so that you can make your contributions. You can discuss some of those issues that we have raised so far. One of the things coming out of the news this week on DBS, we heard the leader of the Roman Catholic Church, Archbishop Robert Rivas, just lamenting the way the Shock Cemetery is being expanded. Now, this has been a very sticky point, a sticking point for many people. You know, the fact that the cemetery, the only cemetery in Castries that is functional to a large extent, there is no space. There is an overcrowding issue, and there has not been another spot identified to bury those people who have passed, and in a dignified way. And what the Archbishop was complaining about this week was the fact that excavators and backhoes were in the cemetery and moving soil, moving earth, and that the graves of some people who have already been buried might have been disturbed. And from a religious and standpoint, you know, this, as he said, was not acceptable, and he called for something to be done about that situation. So just a few things happening. Also talking about the roving caregivers program, emphasis has been made on the fact that 35 people are out of a job because the roving caregivers program has been cancelled, or the program no longer has failed to continue as it used to. I heard the Education Minister, Dr. Robert Lewis, who is responsible for that program, speak on the issue last night, where he indicated that the funds for the roving caregivers program had dried up, and the government had decided to continue with it for 1 year. However, he promised that an announcement will be made as to the continuation of the roving caregivers program. I'm not sure whether it is in the form that it had been, or whether it is something that will be changed going forward. But he said an announcement will be made on it. Right now, there has been some sadness in some circles over the fact that this program has been cancelled. That program, of course, dealing with the very young ones, the preschoolers and those who are preschool age. So the roving caregivers program would have assisted families around the island with the care of those little ones, and from what I understood, is over 400 families that benefited from the program. They no longer will be benefiting as far as that program. Now, while the focus had been on those who had lost their jobs, there was little focus on the children who are now without that program, and what kind of care will be taken of them, and what kind of other programs will be put in place to ensure that, you know, a substitute, an alternative program isn't put in place so they can be occupied during the time that the roving caregivers program would have been continuing. So I invite you to call any of those issues, and probably issues that I may not have brought up but you want to discuss in some detail, or just mention this evening on Newsmaker Live. It is your time tonight to discuss any issue that you want to. Now and again, as I said, we have these programs where we just open up the lines and let you make those contributions. So when we come back on Newsmaker Live, we'll take your calls, and we'll get some, well, just before we go to break, let's take this call. Good evening, caller. Please go ahead.
Hello, hello.
Hi, good evening, caller. Please go ahead.
It's for every child or everything what you are talking about.
Go ahead, please.
It's for every child or everything you are talking. Like.
What are you referring to?
What?
What are you referring to?
Like you say, for children, and I didn't have a topic, but
we're just talking about everything in general, what has been happening around the island. I just raised a number of issues as far as the news. One of the issues that I raised, of course, was that missing 13-year-old from one of the communities where her father said that he put her on a bus, I think from Roseau or that area, put her on a bus, but she never got to her mother's house. And there was concern. I mean, it's something that has been expressed time and again, that the care that is taken of little children who should be protected. So yeah, so that's one thing. The 13-year-old is from the Marigot Secondary School, and I think part of what was said was that she was at a friend's house in Anse-Laurent. Okay, so well, thank you for that. Let's take a break. When we come back, we want to continue our discussion on topics of interest to you. Please don't go away, and make sure you call. Let's hear your views on some of the major developments taking place around St. Lucia. Stay with us.